Hello, and welcome to Brassy Business Podcast, where we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly with business owners and what they have done to make their businesses shine. I am your host, Haley Rupp. Let's talk business. So this week, I have a guest, and I know absolutely nothing about this area of business. So I am so excited to hear how it works, the background of it. So let me introduce Tristan to the show.
Haley, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good.
So Tristan, can you take a minute, introduce yourself, your business?
Absolutely. My name is Tristan Acuna. I am the owner and operator of Welcome Home Cleaning based out of Gillette, Wyoming.
How long have you guys been in business?
13 years.
13 years.
13 long years.
How many employees do you have working for you?
We have 6 working right now, and that changes as, necessity comes and goes. But right now we have 6.
So with 6 employees, how many houses and properties do you service roughly a week?
So we have about 40 contracted clients, and that puts us at about 100 to 100 plus a month. So weekly, it kind of, gives and takes here and there. And then, of course, we have rentals and some things that drop in every now and then. But typically about 100 to 100 plus a month.
That's a bunch.
It is. It's a lot.
So I like to kind of look at businesses as a story. So let's jump back before you even started this business. Did you have like an aha moment? I want to go out on my own, or what made you take the leap into entrepreneurship?
So we are what I would call accidental entrepreneurs. And what that means is I had never planned for this. This wasn't a business model that I had sat down like a lot of people, including yourself, I'm sure, who have just kind of hashed it out. And what happened was my husband lost his job just shy of Christmas with 2 little kids. Mm-hmm. And that builds necessity. And where there's necessity, there's creativity. And what had happened is a really good friend of mine had asked if I wanted to clean her house. And so I said, yeah, money's money at that point with 2 little kids. And that went from her to referring a friend, to that friend referring a friend, to here we are now, 40 some clients deep and several years later. So Jessica, if you're listening, thank you.
You got to give that original shout out, don't you?
She's the OG of the business structure. So
Heck yeah. So in the first few years, what did your business look like?
Oh my gosh. I think like with any business, it's so much trial and error. Mm-hmm. So much trial and error. And when you're just kind of doing it to survive, I don't know if there's a whole lot of business planning that goes into it until you wake up one day and you go, holy crap, this is legit.
Right.
And then you kind of have to restructure and rethink. But man, to start out with, it was just whatever you could take. You didn't turn down work because you needed it. Mm-hmm. And over the course of the time that we've been in business, that's really kind of leveled out, and it's become something that is no longer made out of necessity, but made out of success and drive. Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. Yep. Drive. There is so much. I mean, we could have a whole conversation about drive, because you'll find once you start to talk with a lot of business owners is that they have to have drive.
Yes. Yep.
You don't have the drive, you're not making money. And if you're not making money, your business is just never going to be successful.
Absolutely. And I think people underestimate a lot of times the amount of grit mm-hmm. that it takes to be a business owner. And that comes from both being defeated and being humble. I think you really have to walk a very thin line between what you what you put out there and what you give weight to. I think if you go either way, too far on either side, you really do a disservice to both yourself and your business. And so it's that grit of just staying really focused on just walking, that straight line right down the middle.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I can definitely, my previous business was very much social media based, and everybody has an opinion, and you have to sometimes just put your blinders on and just not pay attention to any of that.
Absolutely. And I think that comes in your personal life too. When you're a business owner, I see so many things on social media, since that got brought up, that I would love to have some kind of comment. And I'm like, no, you're a representation of your business, even outside of the uniform. So
yes.
Yeah, it's that business owner mindset that I think you have to learn to live inside of 24 hours a day.
Oh, for sure. there's just so much to that, where it's like you see these debates sometimes, especially on Facebook. That's where they always seem to be. And you're like, oh, I would love to drop my 2 cents into this, but I think I'm just going to step back.
Right. Yep. And that, like I said, that it's just that 24-hour mindset of how does this represent myself? And, I think it almost kind of tends to challenge you to grow on a personal level too. So there's a lot of really good things that even in that grind and that hustle that really kind of start establishing you on a different level as not only a business owner, but, just an individual in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So taking a jump into the business world, I have this theory that the business world has its own hazing system, opportunity, call it what you want to. So have you ever had that sitting in your closet, crying, staring off into space, what the hell am I doing? Why did I do this moment in your business?
So I saw something on Facebook the other day that it resonated so hard. When you have like, oh, I feel that so hard moments, it said, if you don't want to burn the place to the ground at least once a week and work at McDonald's, you're not entrepreneuring hard enough. And I was like, I think my soul wrote this. Just those moments come and go. Like, it's just insane. So one day you feel like you're smashing it. Every single thing that you touch is solid gold. And the next day you are the biggest screw up that there has, who left me responsible for this?
Right.
And that's, and then you're like, oh yeah, that was me. But yeah, absolutely. And I think if you don't have those moments, I think you're probably not pushing yourself hard enough, because that, and I say it a lot, and I actually just put it on our Facebook the other day, growth begins where your comfort ends. Definitely. And I think that's what that moment represents, that crying on the floor, I cannot do this. That's what that moment is it's leveling up. And so, yeah, we've had it hard. And, about every 4 months, I tell myself, I cannot do this. And it seems like right when that moment hits, that's where the creativity and the ideas start really blossoming. And so, yeah, been there hard. But that's part of it.
Right. So what helps you get through the moments?
That's a good one. I think reflection.
Okay.
I know that's probably the last thing that you expected.
That is.
Like a good drink. No, but I think reflection and a good drink maybe. Because when you get so critical about that moment, I think it's important to stop and think what led you to it. So the moments now that are just absolutely defeating never would have existed 5 years ago, because we weren't on that level. The moments that are going to exist 3 years from now aren't there today, because we're not at that level. So I think if you can kind of take a step back and separate yourself from the issue and really reflect on why that issue is there, and try to find a little bit of gratitude to be there, you kind of tend to look at it from a different angle. And I think business ownership, you have to be able to come and look at problems and success and everything from a different angle, because if you don't, you get so stagnant.
For sure.
And that's where businesses burn out and just kind of go away. And if you don't have those levels of laying in your closet, wrapped up in your favorite blankie, it's, I don't think you're pushing yourself hard enough.
Right.
So everything is comfortable. When it's comfortable, it's great. That's kind of where we tend to want to stay. But yeah, I think reflection is a big thing of, do I want to sit here and be safe and comfortable, or do I want to prove to myself that there is another layer?
Right.
And
for
I
sure.
think that's a big thing, is that step and that reflection.
Yeah, that's not where I would have ever thought you would have gone with that. Not even a little bit.
I think if you would have asked me that question when we started, I don't know if that would have even been my answer, but it's just kind of that shooting from the hip.
Right.
But I think that there's a lot of truth in that. You really have to take a look at where you've been to see where you're going.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's another thing with business. It's like, it's sometimes hard to step out of your own body, step out of the situation you're in, and be like, all right, this is where we're at right now, but this is where I want to get. And this might suck completely where I'm at this exact moment. But in order to get there, I need to do this, this, and this. So these are the steps we have to take to get there. It's not always so much black and white when there's
Absolutely. And I don't know who it was, but they said growth is not a straight line. And
Oh,
man, that is spot on.
right.
It is just, it's full of peaks and valleys, and man, the valleys suck.
They do.
They suck hard.
And I feel like business is sometimes a lonely journey.
Absolutely.
Because you don't always have people that you can relate to or that you can confide in. And I personally have a tendency to keep it all in. And you sometimes want to make it look like everything's pretty, everything's going fabulous, but on the inside, you're dying a little bit.
Right. And, and I think that's in any relationship you have, there's this level of, oh gosh, like a no trespassing level. There's this gate up when it comes around business owners, that is just kind of off limits, that conversation. If you have a spouse who, my spouse works in the mining industry, and even though he's very supportive and very loving and very kind, there's times where we have a conversation and I can tell he checked out the second I started talking, and he'll still sit there and he'll still walk me through it. And I support you and I'm proud of you and all those things. But that business mindset doesn't come with everyone that you speak to.
Oh, for sure.
And in turn, because I do have friends who are business owners, it's almost like we kind of mute our success, which is such a weird thing because you work so hard for it, so sharing some of the successes that you have or the ideas that you have sometimes almost feels like you're boasting.
Yes.
And on one hand, you should. You've worked really hard for this. But when you sit down and you say, oh my gosh, this is what we made in a year, it almost feels like, it's that level of, we don't talk about that.
Exactly.
You don't talk about money. You don't talk about politics. You don't let somebody borrow your car. Like, there's just those things that you learn growing up. Hi, Mom. But there's just those things that you learn. And so, like you said, it sometimes feels really lonely because even when you're in a group of professionals, I've done business networking and networking groups in town, there's still this island that you sit on as a business owner, and it's kind of like a no admittance island. We have what we do and I have, it's going great, but we never really deep dive into what that means. So lonely is a very good word to use. There's some isolation that comes with being a business owner. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And even you can be in the same, genre, network, profession as other people and having these conversations. But even when you're friends with them, you get that feeling sometimes like, oh, well, I'm so happy that you're doing phenomenal, but what the heck am I doing wrong that I haven't reached that yet? And that's another thing about business that just drives me insane is the comparison. And I don't know how to get past that. And sometimes it's like, hey, you need to go work on yourself. And sometimes it's, well, maybe we use this as motivation. Maybe we deep dive and study what this person is doing. And I pick out 3 things that I can use to apply to myself and go with that.
Right. And, we get that question a lot, not just on a personal level, but I'm also involved in some community pages on Facebook for, this kind of business. And that question comes up a lot is, how do you handle competition? And I've really tried to be very humble about that. And I know I've already used that word, but it's such an important word, I think, when it comes to business, because at one point in time, I was the new guy.
Yeah.
And so I would have been just devastated if some of the bigger names in town at that point in time had just run me under.
Yes.
And now what I understand as you grow and as you mature is it's not competition. If somebody comes out and they're advertising that they do the same job for a third of the cost that I do, they don't do the same job that I do because they don't have my business. They're not, I haven't trained them. It's not my job. And so when you see things like that, whether it's this business or other, sometimes when you see somebody who's been a little bit more successful, it's because they're marketing themselves to a whole different demographic of clientele. And that's what we do. We've kind of come into our own where we're no longer just taking whatever, we've really been able to fine tune and we're trying to go to the more luxury side of business. And so what appeals to my clients is not the $15.99 special, because there's a value in what we provide. And sometimes that value does come, with a different price tag.
Absolutely.
And the thing is that I heard this once and it really stuck with me, is that there's room at the table for everyone to eat. And I think if you have that mindset, and if you have that good grace when it comes to the people who are in business that, kind of piggybacks off of yours, there's something to be said about your professionalism.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that it's not always easy. But that's something that I think I really strive for. And maybe that's just a good business practice, is just because somebody is in the same business with you does not make them competition.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such I know that might sound crazy, but
oh no, I'm completely on board with you on this one. Trust me.
We offer what we offer and you offer what you offer. And I hope that you do well.
Exactly.
And I hope that somewhere down the line, you hope that I do well too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And more of that is, there are enough people with enough income variation in our town alone of roughly 30,000 people for everybody.
Right. And it would be absolutely asinine to say that I could service everybody in town.
No,
everybody
never.
who has this need in town, I want every one of you to be my client, because that is a lie. Because what we would focus on would be quantity over quality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's insane. That's such a bad business ideology to have, is that I want it all.
Right.
Because I can't manage it all. So, going back to that, I think it's just, there's definitely quote unquote competing business, and maybe somebody's doing better than me, but maybe they've worked for that too.
Right, for sure. Yeah. So you are in a lot of people's houses. Yes. You are in a lot of different situations. Do you have any funny stories or any moments where you walked into a house and you're like, this is not the situation I was expecting to be walking into?
Oh boy. So
that you can share with us.
Right. Cause confidentiality. But yeah, we can dive a little bit, into some past experiences from years gone by. I think that, the weirdest situation we ever had included a, UPS package of Grandpa's ashes.
Grandpa's ashes.
Grandpa's ashes.
So was this like a current client or?
Oh, no. So we, not only do we do our contracted business, our residentials, our commercials, but we also do rentals, move in, move out, all of those kind of things. So sometimes what we have is a landlord that calls and says, hey, I have a tenant that I kicked out, or a tenant moved. Can you help us? And a lot of times what happens is people leave things behind. Mm-hmm. So what I always do is I reach out to the landlord. I say, hey, in the event that we find anything, what do you want us to do with it? 9 times out of 10, if you're listening and you're a renter, your landlord will tell us to throw things away. Remember to pack your things. But landlord said, whatever you find, they kind of disappeared, just throw it away. So I'm thinking, okay, no big deal. Pots, pans,
mm-hmm.
Things like that.
Tupperware lids.
Yeah, exactly. So many Tupperware lids and socks. People, make sure you have all your socks when you leave. But so we, a friend of mine was helping me out, and we're cleaning a bedroom late at night. This is like 11 o'clock at night at the time. I had a full-time job. She had a full-time job, and still in the side hustle world. And I run my hand over the top of a closet, and something goes skidding across the top of the closet. So I get a chair, I climb up there, and it's a mail envelope. So I'm thinking, like, you can't open people's mail. Like, that's, you can't do that. So I call the landlord and I say, hey, look, I've got mail. And he says, that's, they're gone. This is from a tenant even before this one. So I'm thinking, well, there's something, it's, it seems important. And so we're like, okay, let's take this leap and let's see if it's important. If it's just, garbage, we'll throw it away. If not, we need to contact somebody that they've left something important here. And open the flap on it. And it's a Ziploc baggie of white powder.
Well, that makes your mind go to one thing.
So we're thinking, oh my Lord, we're going to have to call, in reinforcements, because here we sit as mules at this point. And
11 o'clock at night in somebody's closet.
In an empty house, in somebody's closet, in a trailer park. It's just bad. And so
all the boxes are checked.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I look like I should be in a trailer park at 11 o'clock at night. But yeah. And, open up the bag. Well, I didn't open up the bag. If you're listening, you know who you are. And I start reading the letter, and the very first line of the letter is, here's Grandpa's ashes. And I'm thinking, this is not what we thought it was. And so what do you do? What do you do?
Yeah.
Such a moral conflict. Like, I cannot dispose of somebody's grandfather. Morally, I can't.
Right.
I can't do that. And so what ended up happening was late at night, I 411'd this woman's name that was on the, envelope. And I call her and I say, ma'am, this is an odd call to have to make, but I believe I have something that belongs to you. And oh my gosh. So then Grandpa had to ride around with me in the truck for the weekend. And yeah, we can't publicly disclose how we got Grandpa back to Maryland, but he went and things are good now. And hopefully he's resting peacefully.
Where he wants to be.
Not in the front seat of my pickup.
Or not in a closet in Gillette, Wyoming.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's been some doozies, water heaters full of cockroaches. Oh. And yeah, it is not for the faint of heart.
So with the cockroaches thing, are you jumpy? Are you a jumpy person?
I don't like bugs.
Okay.
I don't like bugs. I don't.
Because I am so jumpy. Mm-mm. Like, the kids were watching some Africa show and there was a big old snake on TV last night. And I'm just looking at it and I'm like, I do not like snakes. I do not like reptiles. I am too jumpy for this.
See, I don't mind reptiles. If we'd have found somebody's lizard, that would have been okay. But no, what had happened was a rental was having some water issues and I went over with the maintenance man and cockroaches everywhere. And I'm like, I'm out. There's just some things that I'm not participating in. And that's where I draw my line.
That was a you problem, not a me problem.
Yep, that's a hell no problem. Because like I said, there is just I draw a line somewhere and it's bugs.
Mm-hmm. Mm. It's got to be somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yep. But yeah, we've, I wish that I could do like an anonymous book.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. But even that crosses some lines. But oh my gosh. Yeah. Someday the stories.
Right into the anonymous blogs.
Right. But, and it's just, it always seems to be rentals. Like, it's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It can't be traced back
to
the
things people leave behind. That should be a whole podcast.
A whole series on its own.
A whole podcast in itself. What's left behind.
Oh, buddy. So I like to ask this question when I'm personally interviewing employees that have applied for jobs. And I feel like you can really get a sense of the knowledge that somebody has in the area that they're wanting to go to work to or they currently do. So what is the biggest problem that you see your industry is facing?
Oh, I think this is such a, I know what I want to say. I think I don't even want to call it evolution because it almost seems like we're declining, but I think it's the world that is becoming. We are getting so far away from your typical 8 to 5. Mm-hmm. We are stepping away from those kind of things. And I don't say this about my crew. My crew is amazing, but there is a sense of entitlement that's coming up with a lot of the younger generations that are coming into the workforce. And I think what's happening is you have business owners who were raised so differently than the workforce that's coming in. Mm-hmm. So, myself, you, older siblings, parents, as we kind of go that direction in age, those are your business owners. Mm-hmm. We were raised kind of, you come to work, you do your job.
You do a good job.
You do a good job. And most of the time, if you have a decent employer, that will be compensated.
Yes.
In a way that makes you feel as though you're valued. And that's how we've always been taught that the job force works. And I think the up and coming working force has been taught that there's not that level of what you earn. Mm-hmm. And that's not just with my business because, networking, you hear a lot of this from any business, anybody that's currently trying to hire, that work ethic and that passion for what you do, unless you're a trade industry, just is not there. We're losing workers who genuinely just want to come and put their best foot forward and really provide something that they're proud of. It's easier to do things on your own. It's easier to Etsy or DoorDash or things like that, where you don't have to receive constructive criticism. We're always kind of taught that you learn from someone who knows more than you do.
Right.
You know, that's what I was taught. That's what you were taught. And especially in the more western part of the United States, like this heartland, you know, area that we're in, where we kind of really stick to those old-fashioned values.
Yep.
And so I think there's just a big conflict of workforce versus work providers. I think it's going to be an interesting play here in the next few years of how that really works, because everybody wants the service that we provide, you know, so you want retail stores and you want ice cream shops and you want coffee shops and you want all of these things, but people have to be willing to invest in those and work to give those experiences and those businesses to your community. And I think people are really losing the importance of what your job does. You know, and I think that that's such an awful thing that's happening, because pretty soon what's going to happen is you're going to see little cafes shut down. We're already seeing it. You're going to see boutiques shut down. You're going to, you know, all of these little things that people work really hard to bring to your community. Those are all going to start going by the wayside, because there's nobody who wants to work. And you can't have both sides.
No.
And you also can't have businesses in your community that bring to you a product that's affordable and pay what the up and coming working class is wanting.
Oh, for sure.
You know, you can't have a small retail store. Like, I mean, you had one, and pay $25-$30 an hour for an employee, because you can, but now the shirt that costs you $30 is now a $60 shirt.
And that's what people don't realize. Right. That's the big picture, that I feel like there's a disconnect between your consumer and your business.
Correct.
That, yeah, you want a $29.99 shirt. Okay. But if I have to have an employee who is selling you that shirt, and I don't have anybody that's coming through my doors, I mean, that might be a different story as to why nobody's coming through the doors, but I have to make sure that that employee can be compensated one way or another.
Right.
And sometimes it plays into your pricing.
Right. And I think, you know, especially when it comes to small business, the employees that work for small businesses are worth their weight in gold.
Oh, completely.
They really are, because small business is such a unique niche. You're not working for a corporation. You're not working, you know, for a franchise. You're working for the heart of the company. And when you have those employees that are just worth everything, there's still a limit to what I can give to you. You know, I would love to pay my girls $30-$40 an hour, but realistically, that puts me now raising my prices, you know, 50% or better to compensate, which means we now have lost clientele. So it's just it's such a hard balance between what you're worth and what I can provide and still be in business.
Yes.
You know, and that's, you know, because the other thing is in small business, about 70% of it goes right back out the door to business expense. You know, so the whole of it is still going back out the door. So that 70% now can't go to 80, you know, 85, 90% and leave the business owner who takes all the risks, you know, with nothing. It's not worth being in business at that point.
Yes.
So yeah, I think that's probably the biggest thing, is just this, we're in a really weird place when it comes to compensation and quality, that I'm really not sure where it's going. It's kind of a scary place as a business owner to have to wonder what comes next.
The one thing that gets me is when I'm looking over job applications and I see that you are a 25-year-old male and you have not been at a job for more than 6 months, that it's such a struggle, because I understand putting in the time. I understand that if I tried to move up in a company and it didn't work, then yes, it is fine to go try to find a better opportunity that's going to advance me in my career, in my life, and whatnot. But there comes a fine line with that, to where you cannot jump from job to job to job to job and still think that you are employable.
Right. And the other thing that I hear a lot, like I said, you know, with some of these networking groups here locally, is people coming in as an entry-level employee and wanting a higher executive level position in the company. And that's what everybody is saying is like, people come in and want to run the place, which is great, because eventually I would love to hire somebody to run the place. But when you like that, when you're 19, when you're 20, when you have no work experience, it's and with the hiring shortage, it's almost like the position of power has flopped.
Yes.
Because I have to have workers. If I don't have workers, I don't have a business. So now what it does is it gives the upper hand to the worker who comes in and says, well, this is what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And as business owners, not just myself, but kind of across the board, we have to decide, is going under or is, pushing that 70% to 73% to, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
And how does that work? And it's just like I said, that power play and that dynamic is changing. And you've got a lot of people who don't have experience who want to come in and just, be at the top of the food chain, so to speak. And, we're a little different. You think that, it's just cleaning house, anybody can dust. And the thing is that when I hire, I shouldn't say when you hire, because when I hire, I'm not looking for somebody who can use their arms. That's not what I'm looking for. I mean, arms are helpful. If you have 2 arms and have a good work ethic, please apply. No. But what I'm looking for is somebody who can use their brain.
Mm-hmm.
I want somebody who can problem solve. I want somebody who can delegate and be delegated to. I want somebody who can use their vocal abilities instead of just, internalizing everything.
Mm-hmm.
I want somebody who can be creative, because we do a lot of really creative things that I don't think anybody else offers them, but we do a lot of really creative things. And so I'm looking for that group of individuals that comes together at the table and says, what next?
Yes.
That passion for creativity. And I'm looking for somebody who does so much more than uses their arms. And so when you're looking for that, it really is a specific group of people that you need to target. And when you're already looking for a very small group of individuals, and now half of that group of individuals is either not qualified or not interested, that it just gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And so, it's not, for me, it's not about the experience, because you can come in with experience, but I don't want your experience. I want you to be able to learn. I want you to be coachable. I want you to be teachable, because that's how we work cohesively. So if you come in and do your own thing because you're trained, that doesn't do me any good, because you're still not a cohesive unit, and that's what we need. And finding that creativity and that ability to be teachable is just, it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder than I ever imagined, because when I grew up, everybody wanted a job. Like that's, you couldn't wait to get a job. And now I don't know if we're there anymore.
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
completely.
It's scary.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, where do we go from here?
Right.
Like, if we don't have employees to work said jobs, then we don't have said services. And
right. And how many times, I mean, I know I have, but how many times recently on like Facebook, let's say our community pages, have you seen people complaining that certain businesses are closed,
mm-hmm.
or that they've changed their hours?
Mm-hmm.
If you want businesses in your community, go to work.
Yeah.
Encourage people to go to work. If you want higher wages for the boutique that just opened on Main Street, go to work, and be patient that maybe her pay range starts at $12 an hour.
Right.
But as more people come in the door and more products come in, that's now 13, 14, 15. And maybe 3 years from now, that little tiny boutique is paying out $17 an hour. And now she's an asset to your community.
Mm-hmm.
It takes communities to grow small business.
Well, and there's more to a job than just the wages. Like yes. Boutiques, okay? We'll keep going with that example. So say you start as a 18-year-old and you work there all the way through college, and you work your way up, and you are going to get opportunities to learn how the retail industry works. You may get opportunities to go to market with her and go on a paid expense trip to Dallas.
Right.
Like there's more than just your day-to-day, I go to work, I get paid a wage, and that's it.
Right. And that's, and I tell my girls that too, is I want to challenge you, because you don't want to work here forever.
Yeah.
And I tell my girls, I don't want to work here forever. but maybe you pick up something along the way, and 3 years from now you call me and you're in business. And that's what small business brings to communities. It brings that drive and that experience. And when you start from the ground up of a small business, you learn everything from the ground up. And it's such an important part of communities. And I think we're seeing a lot of small business die out, because we just can't keep up.
Yeah.
We cannot keep up with the wage increases. We cannot keep up with the product or retail increases. It's getting so hard, and that's not even on the political level of what it is. It's getting so hard to manage that and still bring a product to your community that I don't feel like I'm gouging people. I don't want to do that. That's why you open a small business, because you're here for your community. And that's, yeah, I don't know where we're going.
Me neither. Truthfully. So now that you've been in business for 13 years?
Correct.
Awesome. If you could go back to when you were very first starting and give yourself some advice, what would you tell your younger self?
Run far, no, I'm kidding. I would tell my younger self to not wait this long before you give yourself credit.
Own it.
Yep. Start being really proud from day one.
Yeah.
I have a really bad habit, and I just did a different podcast yesterday, and we kind of talked about this too. I'm really bad at thinking I'm just getting lucky. I'm so bad about it. I'm so bad about seeing something happen and go, well, I should have pushed harder. If this is what I have, then I should have pushed harder, because then I'd had more, it's just this constant. And when I say 24 hours a day, there's times where it's like 1:00 in the morning and I'm still thinking I should have done more. Like I could squeeze this in.
Right.
And there's no more squeezing. Like stop squeezing. But I think that that's something that if I could go back and teach myself, or now teach my kids, is from day one, stand up and take the credit. Because you didn't get lucky. This isn't luck, and you hear small business, or when you succeed, or when you make a purchase, so many times I think we hear, well, must be nice.
I could have a whole episode on them three words.
Must be nice. No, it wasn't.
Right.
It was awful, and it was taxing, and it was tiring, and it was defeating, and it was all of these things.
Yes.
But nice has been a word that I have not used very many times in the past 13 years. Or I saw this thing on Facebook about small business, and it's, oh, she's so lucky. It's not luck.
Right.
Very rarely does business just get lucky. It happens.
It does sometimes.
It happens.
Sometimes you are in the perfect situation at the perfect time, but you can't tell me that you weren't somehow set yourself up to that position.
If you are in the 1%, congratulations on being God's favorite.
That's not me.
That's not me. But that's the lesson that I would like to go back and learn, and that I'm forcing myself to learn this year. As business owners, we need to make those goals. And that's standing up and saying, I've worked really hard for this, and there's been so much of myself and my time and my effort and my family that's gone into this, that it's not lucky.
Right.
This is grind. And that's something to be really proud of when you have that resilience. When you just, that fight, and that's something to really be proud of. So if you're out there and you're a business owner who's killing it or semi-killing it, take just a minute, like right now, at this very second, to just stop and look at what you've done.
Right.
Just take a second and go, wow.
Right. And call a friend. Call your mom.
Call us. No.
Call us. Yeah. Shout us out on socials. Brassy Business Podcast. We'll celebrate with you. And that's another thing is finding them right people. We talked earlier about how business can be lonely sometimes, but finding them right people that you can call or you can shoot a text to and just celebrate the little things with. Them people are priceless.
Yeah, absolutely. That's, for me, that's my mom.
Same.
Oh, my mom is like, she's the best. And there's days where I call her and I'm like, I'm done. I'm finished. I'm not doing this anymore. And she has always been the very straightforward voice of reason.
Yes.
Where she's like, you've worked way too hard to be done. You know, she's never like, oh, it's going to be better. You know, she's not that mom. She's like, this is stupid. Don't say that. And that's, you know, find your tribe.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that goes for anything. Really find your tribe. And when days are hard, let them be hard.
Right.
Because there's something really beautiful that comes out of that struggle. You know, let it be hard, but don't let it be defeating.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my words of wisdom for the day.
Let it be hard.
Yeah. Let it be hard.
But don't let it be defeating. I like that. I think that needs to go like on a graphic somewhere.
Yeah. Hashtag graphics.
Mm-hmm.
Let it be hard.
Mm-hmm.
Because it should be. And if it's not hard, like I said before, you're not pushing yourself hard enough.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree completely.
Yeah. What's next? This is fun.
I know. It is fun. What else do you want to talk about?
I don't know. Here, you've got the taller chair.
I have. Well, that's kind of just by fate. So today, this is the very first episode that I am like officially recording. And we actually came to our public library per Tristan's suggestion. And it's a cool little room. I'm not going to lie. But we took 2 different chairs and they're like this different in height. And it's interesting.
I feel like a peasant.
So we've talked a lot about social media.
Yes.
Because, I mean, it's the world that we live in today.
And I think that I would love to be off social media on a personal level, but it's so good for business.
It is.
If you run it and you market social media right, it is like the best free advertising ever.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have a Facebook page, get one.
Right.
We actually just hit 1,100 followers on our Facebook page.
That's awesome.
Our tiny little Facebook page. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. So what do you share on your Facebook page?
Oh gosh. So
and what socials? I will, trust me, because you will be tagged in everything.
Perfect.
Oh, I know how this game works.
We share a lot. So just on a client base, you know, sometimes if we're closed or things like that, important notifications like it's cold, but please turn your heater down because my crew is dying. Little things like that. We also have some fun polls. The other day we did a poll on, is there a right way for the toilet paper to go
Yes.
on it? Are you a front or are you a mullet?
I'm a mullet. It has to go back towards the cabinet or the wall.
So 72% of the vote said mullet.
Yes.
I've been doing this 13 years and I go the other way. You want to know what's funny though? My mom also picked that option. We were 2 in like 5 people who voted that way.
That's funny.
So yeah, thanks mom for teaching me my whole life. It was a lie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mullets. Mullets are in.
Mm-hmm. Hazen has a mullet.
There you go. So does Cash.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't wait for that to be over.
I know. I keep asking him like, hey, are you ready to trim that up yet? And he's like, nope. And I'm like, okay. We'll keep rocking it. But I kept his sideburns.
Did you?
I did. It's a classy mullet.
Right
now it doesn't look classy because he needs a haircut again.
Oh, words that I never thought I would hear in my whole life. Classy mullet.
Classy mullet.
Yeah. But yeah, so mullets are in.
They are.
That's the 72% of the vote says mullets are in. We do some giveaways. Sometimes we do giveaways. Yesterday was National Get to Know Your Client Month.
Oh, okay.
So I challenged the Facebook group. Can we call it a fan club?
You can call it a fan club.
Nice. So I challenged my fan club to share a photo of something that brings them joy in their house.
Okay.
So it's very interactive. We won't just post, just regular plain old content.
Yes.
We have a lot of social media presence, which is kind of cool. Marketing for the win. If you market a small business, it will pay you back tenfold.
Oh, for sure. Because it's not just a cleaning company.
Right.
It's not just, hey, I'm cleaning and it's cold today, so we're not going to be cleaning. Like, you have made your Facebook tribe like a tribe.
Yeah.
More than just like, hey, these people pay us to do a service and therefore they like our page in case they need information. No.
Right. And branding is so important, so you might not need me, but you may have seen 25 of my Facebook posts. And when somebody says, oh gosh, we really need our office clean, you go, oh, hey, wait.
Yes.
I see this lady on Facebook all the time. You know, so it's that branding that's so important to small business, which leads into something kind of cool that we're going to be kicking off sometime this year. But
Dun, dun, dun.
dun, dun, dun.
To be continued at a later time.
Yeah, so we do a lot of fun things on there. Really, really interactive. So get on, invite your friends. We'll have a party.
Yeah, and all of her socials will be tagged, and we'll have all of her contact information in the notes, and on socials she'll be tagged and all that good stuff.
Love it.
Exactly. Not just a like, we have to love it. Well, I think that's what we got for today.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast with me. It's been an amazing conversation. I really enjoyed it. It made me laugh.
You're welcome, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations on entrepreneurship.
Another new journey.
Yes.
Another new journey.
I can't wait to see where this goes.
I know. I'm pretty excited too.
Good.
Yeah. So can you just tell everybody one more time what your business is, if they want to follow you on social, where they can do that so they can find you?
Absolutely. So again, we are Welcome Home Cleaning based out of Gillette, Wyoming. You can find us on Facebook. You can just search Welcome Home Cleaning LLC, or if you want to type it out, do it the long way. It is www.facebook.com/WHC Gillette. And go ahead and like it. And we're getting really close to 1,000 likes. We'll be giving a giveaway.
Ooh,
yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, you guys better go like it right now.
Yeah,
so
I think we're
on that.
15 people shy. So
yeah,
giveaway time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Giveaways are awesome.
Awesome.
So since this podcast is all about small businesses, I'm wearing boutique clothing. So I'm going to give, thank you, a shout out quick to the shirt came from Gumbo Lilies, and she's in Miles City, Montana. And the vest came from Sweet Summit Boutique. I actually just got this, so they might still have it in stock.
Haley is sporting a olive green vest with a light puff high collar and black zipper. In case anybody needed to know that.
Exactly. And then a nice black crisscross neck long sleeve shirt.
It's classy.
It's very comfortable. I love this shirt. So that is all that I have for today's episode, and thank you for joining me. Make sure to follow the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and look us up on Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok under Brassy Business Podcast so we can stay in touch. And I will see everybody next week.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.